Delay of Reindeer Games. By Melinda Curtis. Chapter 1. Somewhere, someone blared "Deck the Halls" through their car speakers. It had to be car speakers because "fa la 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 la" seemed to come from Helen Wheeler's right and then moved to somewhere behind her. A man's voice boomed over the song. "Welcome to Christmas Town." "Fa la 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 humbug," Helen grumbled. She finished filling the wheelbarrow with pine boughs she'd cut from her friend Becca's backyard just as a light snow began to fall again. The music ended. Helen hoped her lack of holiday cheer would also end come Sunday, the day after the Christmas Town High School reunion held its last event. Everyone dreads their high school reunion, Helen continued to grumble as she tromped through a few inches of snow, pushing the wheelbarrow to the side gate. "Deck the Halls" stopped playing mid-fa-la-la. A car door slammed. The overly enthusiastic Christmas lover apparently lived nearby. Helen unlatched the side gate and pushed it open, and then shoved the wheelbarrow through to the front yard. "Hell on wheels," a deep male voice teased from the front walk. Helen gritted her teeth and dropped her wheelbarrow to the ground, hating that what she dreaded about the reunion was hitting her this early in the weekend. Hell on Wheels was the nickname Brandy Sue Duckweiler had given Helen as a freshman during a 1970s-themed rally week where Helen had been chosen to compete in a roller skating race. Given that Helen was capriciously tall, nearly 6 feet, and not athletically inclined, she'd sat the bench on the volleyball and basketball teams. Why would anyone think she could stay on her feet on roller skates? Stupid high school reunion. Who remembered her that way? Only everyone. Helen pasted a smile on her face and turned. A strong pair of arms encircled her, dragging her forward to be crushed against a broad chest. And then she was released and held at arm's length by. Helen froze. "Hell on Wheels. Marshall Jacobs sked. Becca didn't tell me you were in town." "Likewise," Helen mumbled, grinning and blushing furiously as Becca's older brother, Helen's high school crush, continued to hold her in place. "Aren't you on injured reserve?" He played for the Boston Bruins and had received a concussion a week ago. "Should you be driving? Or should he be at home in a dark room under a nurse's care?" "It's just a bump on the head." Marsh gave Helen that trademark grin that used to cause her legs to shake like a bowlful of jelly. He wore a black leather bomber's jacket, a Bruins baseball cap and mirrored aviator sunglasses. "I'm in the NHL's concussion protocol. Nothing to worry about. Unless you don't normally blare holiday tunes out your open truck window in the middle of a snowstorm." Helen knew she should step back and compose herself. She was grinning back at Marsh, still blushing, and couldn't bring herself to move a muscle, not in her face or in her legs, because he was looking at her with a flirty gleam in his eye. "He sees me." Helen smiled harder. "I am going to regret this later." All of it. The grinning. The blushing. The feeling that Marsh actually saw her as a member of the opposite sex, not one of his little sister's friends. Marsh's grin broadened. "You heard me sing. If you prefer, I could belt out some Beatles tunes and..." Helen Wheels is by Sir Paul McCartney, not the Beatles. And the song was about his Range Rover, not Helen Wheeler, formerly of Christmas Town. Helen stopped grinning and stepped clear of those strong hands on her shoulders. Marsh bent his head to look at her over the rim of his sunglasses. "You don't like your nickname?" "No, why sugarcoat it?" She gave it all to him. Not Hell on Wheels. Not Gigantier. Not Crash. "And in case you were wondering, no, I don't play basketball or volleyball any better than I did in high school, because I'm no more coordinated now than I was at 14 when I ran into you while roller skating." Helen pressed her lips closed and clasped her hands, feeling the ring she and Becca had found in the time capsule press into her finger beneath her glove. Why did I have to bring that crash up? Because the things she desperately wanted to keep inside had a way of blurting past her lips. And why did I put on that ring? Because she knew she'd needed a reminder to drop it off at the high school's lost and found. Got it. Height and sports jokes are off limits. Marsh held up his hands in surrender. Apologies. Can I buy you a cup of coffee at the teapot if I promise not to mention any of my fond memories of you from our childhood? Absolutely not. Helen stumbled back, nearly slipping in the snow. Do you know how many people from my graduating class are in town this weekend? Not to mention everyone who's returning to town the last weekend before Christmas. There will be no place to hide from nicknames or so-called fond remembrances. His dark brows quirked. Class reunions are supposed to be joyous times. Helen huffed. Only if high school was a joyous time. But, Marsh frowned. You were happy. I have fond memories of you and Becca giggling while wrapping Christmas presents under the tree. A gust of wind blew snow flurries in Helen's face. She wiped them away, staring across Gingerbread Loop at a peaceful nativity scene. She supposed it wouldn't matter how old she was, when she was back in Christmas Town, she was still that awkward girl who stood out. Can we not talk about this? Marsh took her arm. No. I want to know. If anyone brings up your past in a way you don't like, You'll what? Helen smirked, because the alternative was melting beneath his touch. You'll threaten to beat up whoever teases me or makes me feel awkward about my lack of coordination. I'm used to it now, Marsh. It's just that, back then, I didn't know how to deal with it. And now that you have to face them all again, it's awkward. He hugged Helen once more. She held herself as straight as a hockey stick lest she soften against him and turn her face up for a kiss. She still might. That had always been her dream, after all. In the yard across the street, the lights outlining the nativity scene flickered on. It would be dark soon and she still had the ring from the time capsule to turn in before the school office closed. Helen stepped out of his embrace. What's with the hugging? Marsh wasn't a hugger. He released her, cheeks ruddy, although that might have been from the wind. Can't a guy hug a friend at Christmas? You're not the hugging type, especially with your little sister's friends. Who'd all had crushes on him growing up. They'd all wished he'd turn all that charm their way, but to no avail. You've become Marsh the Masher. Last week, I saw you body check a dude against the glass during a game. After said opponent had done the same to him moments earlier. Helen considered Marsh carefully. Why are you here? You haven't been released from the NHL's concussion protocol. You're as bad as the press. The wind ruffled Marsh's dark hair. He rolled his broad shoulders back. Behind him, the flat, inflatable snowman in Becca's yard began to fill with air. Don't create ripples in the smooth waters of my life, Helen. And don't worry about this weekend. I'm going to watch out for you, the same way I always watched out for you girls. All around Gingerbread Loop, Christmas decorations were coming to life. And now, Marsh was bringing Helen's childhood dreams to life as well. This was surreal. You're going to watch out for me. She forced sarcasm into her words. By doing what? His gaze hardened. By protecting you from bad memories. Don't get carried away. Marsh Jacobs, professional hockey star, had much more important things to do with his time than protect Helen from her insecurities. Snow fell between them, as light and gentle as if they were suddenly brought to life in a holiday card. I'm serious. His dark eyes lit upon Helen. What are you up to with all these fir boughs? You're not serious. You're being difficult. Helen tried to change the subject. I don't have time for you. And she didn't want to make a complete fool of herself by accepting his offer either. I have to stop by the high school and then get to the community center in. Helen checked her phone. Shoot. 20 minutes. With a wheelbarrow? Helen nodded. I'm creating wreaths for the reunion dinner tonight. She returned to the wheelbarrow and picked up the handles. Gotta go. I've already missed the school window. So much for turning in the ring. And I'm the one with the emergency contact info for dinner attendees. The front wheel crunched through the snow. He fell into step alongside her. I'll tag along. Why? Because I haven't seen you in forever and he made a manly sound of frustration. I was serious about making sure no one hurts you this weekend. Helen didn't say anything. But one phrase kept repeating in her head, and it wasn't fa la 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 la. It was, that man hit his head harder than I thought.